All right, welcome to another edition of the 24th Floor. The world of college football shaking right now. We're talking about coaches getting the boot, backup quarterbacks killing it, and the little dogs beating the big dogs. That sets up today's big idea. Rich, take it away.
Ruben, there are only 30 undefeated teams remaining in college football this season. Yet the Memphis Tigers are unranked. What's up with that? Roll that big idea stinger. The Tigers are 4-0 for just the 7th time in program history after a thrilling 32-31 win over Arkansas at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. Memphis racked up 489 total yards, 290 on the ground, but it was the defense that made the difference late. The Tigers forced 3 takeaways, including 2 in the fourth quarter, a Kamari Wilson interception, a clutch sack from Cruz Law, and Chris Bracey's fumble recovery inside the 10 with just over a minute left to seal it. Here's head coach Ryan Silverfield on how good this team is and how strong the American Conference looks.
We understand that every week's going to be a battle. I think it speaks volumes about the American Conference and the opponents that we're going to have to play coming up. We can only take it 1 week at a time, but there's going to be challenges every single week. Everybody's got players, but it speaks, down the end of the road when we talk about the college football playoffs. As you guys know, I don't like to talk about that much. Certainly the winner of this conference will be represented.
All right, he may not want to talk about that much, but I think everybody else is trying to talk about it a little bit. It's fair to say, right? Hey, let's get right to the conversation about it, joined by Mr. Jeff Calkins, who, everybody, if you know anything about Memphis.
This is basically royalty.
This
guy has been covering Memphis sports almost as long as I've been alive.
Well, that's not saying.
Is that true? How old are you?
I'm 29.
No, I've been covering it, longer.
See?
Longer. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I came in '96.
And I was born in '95.
So it's close.
Yeah,
we're close.
You're close.
Right.
Something else is close and on the top of everybody's mind is Memphis football right now, and how well the Tigers have played, how good they look, and kind of what their chances are of first getting ranked and getting into the college football playoffs. What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
I mean, they're essentially the 31st now, if you look at the rankings and count the others receiving votes. Obviously, if they keep winning, they're going to be ranked. Ultimately, other teams ahead of them will lose. The thing is, it was a spectacular win, an unbelievable win, a win that sets the table for everything they can possibly do. Now they have to do it, though. I mean, that's the thing. They've been in this position before. They had the win last year over Florida State. Previous years, they've beaten Mississippi State. Ryan has had big signature wins. What he hasn't yet done is get to the conference championship game or win the conference. And, this team looks like they have the stuff to do it, but they obviously have to do it.
Do you think that getting a win this weekend over Florida Atlantic will help propel them into the rankings? Because it's just, to me, it's ridiculous. That's why I've said on this program, I believe the AP poll is overrated because it doesn't matter really until the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter is the AP poll doesn't matter, period.
Yeah,
we all know that.
But
you argue with me on this.
Here's how it matters, is that you get a little 25 next to your name, and on ESPN, that you get the games that are ranked become high-profile games, and people pay attention to them. So it matters in terms of just building your reputation. And, I mean, at the end of last year, Memphis promoted, we had a top 25 football program and a top 25 basketball program. So it matters to some people. It doesn't matter in terms of whether you're in the playoffs or not, and whether in the playoff or not. And very clearly, if they keep winning, they will be ranked. And if they keep winning, they will be in the playoff. That's pretty clear. It is interesting. At this point, if they don't lose another game, they will be in the playoff and they will be ranked. And so I don't really care if they're ranked this week or the week after. I don't think honestly a win this weekend is going to get them ranked. But in 3 weeks, keep winning, they'll be ranked.
When they officially unveil the college football playoff rankings.
Well, I think so. Here's my take. So they need their opponents to keep winning as well. I would say, if I'm Memphis, I need my opponents to have good, solid records so that my wins kind of mean a little more.
Yeah, in the end, you now have sure, it would be nice if Arkansas's got a big game this week against Notre Dame. It would be nice if Arkansas won games or whatever, but what you need is you got South Florida coming to town. You got Tulsa, you've got Tulane coming to town, and you got to win those games, and you can't stumble. And that's the problem. There's not a lot of wiggle room here. You have to be able to get to the conference championship game. You have to win the conference championship game. But you see it right now, and that's what happened this past Saturday. Is now everyone is talking about Memphis as the presumptive leader in the group of 5 who will go to the, but that will last as long as you keep winning. I mean, once upon a time, not long ago, everyone was talking about South Florida.
That's true.
South Florida lost. Everyone was talking about Tulane. Tulane got their butt kicked by Ole Miss. And so it's smoked. So as long as you keep winning, you will be in that conversation, but you can't stumble, and that's the challenge.
Yeah, I was there for that Tulane game, and it was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, on this program, I thought Tulane would keep it close, so I said that Tulane would cover the 10-point spread. I don't know if you're a betting guy, but yeah, that was bad. Now, going back to that Arkansas victory, in the lead up, I said that I think that it was one of Memphis' most important games of the season and probably for the program, because who knows when they'll get a chance to host an SEC team again with all the conference realignment, SEC now going to non-conference games. Even though Arkansas isn't one of the top dogs in the SEC, would you say that still that is going to be a big program victory like for years to come?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It depends. So much depends what happens. Like I said before, Ryan has had massive wins. He had a massive win over UCF early on in his tenure. He had a massive win over Mississippi State and Mike Leach early on in his tenure. He had the massive win against Florida State. What happens then is you don't remember that Florida State win as being as big as it felt at the time, because we know what happened with Florida State and we know what happened with Memphis. Memphis didn't get to. So in the end, honestly, it's a massive win, but how we remember it depends on what happens next. If Arkansas doesn't win another game and does what Florida State did, we'll downgrade it. But more importantly, if Memphis goes and loses 2 conference games, we won't remember that Arkansas game win as something as massive as if Memphis uses this to catapult themselves to a conference championship. Then you'll remember it very differently. So the context of it matters so much. The game itself was great and was a lot of fun, but how we remember it depends on what happens next.
Yeah. It's a great point, because a loss to somebody you shouldn't lose to will sting a lot more than that win against Arkansas.
No, I had a big argument with John Martin on the radio show about.
We love a big argument.
He was of the view that game was meaningless compared to games against South Florida, games against because in the end, what Ryan has to do is win a title.
Yes.
That's what he hasn't done. And I was like, no. The Arkansas game is still big for the reasons you said.
Yes.
It's an SEC team, and also it creates momentum and excitement for the program. So the way it unfolded, honestly, made it more dramatic. The fact that this Chris Bracey fumble was forced, and I mean, it was, if they had won comfortably by 10, it still would have been memorable. The way it unfolded made it even more memorable.
Let's talk about the way they won. Let's pull up that go-ahead touchdown by Sutton Smith, if we can, producer Jared. Now, I had a walking talk with Sutton Smith in the lead up to the game, and he was always talking about what goes into his head when he has those runs. What I really liked about Sutton is a guy that he's rare in college football. Is I call him a purebred. He's a guy who came straight out of high school from McEachern, not too far from where I grown up, and he's been with Memphis this whole time, never hit the portal, never thought about it. When you look at a guy like Sutton Smith, now he's getting some Doak Walker love. Do you think that he has a realistic chance to hoist that trophy at the end of the season?
Oh, unlikely that he'll get the Doak Walker, but I just love the story for the reasons you said. I mean, he gets knocked out last year, first game of the year, and all off season long, he's thinking about moments like this. And on that 64-yard run, for a moment, it looked like they had him. You know, first of all, you didn't know if Lewis was going to keep the ball or give it to him. And then it looks like they have him. And he said, I saw a lot of green. I had to, he had to shake off that tackler. And so for him to have a moment like that is, it's fabulous. It feels like it was Fred Smith, it was Sutton Smith, it was just a big day for the Smiths.
Yeah, and it's almost reminiscent of his run against Troy. So it's almost
massive win. And obviously there has been at Memphis this tradition of running backs, whether it's D'Angelo or Darrell Henderson or on and on and on. And
Kenneth Gainwell.
Kenny Gainwell's another one. And so Sutton Smith, I think he's been absolutely terrific. And one of the things that I think you can feel really good about this team is that running attack feels like it's going to be there every week.
Yeah.
The offensive line has been really good. You got Rozier back, and he's going to help. And Sutton Smith's been terrific.
So, are we in danger here of romanticizing the Arkansas win so much that we forget how important every game is coming up now. Like, I feel like we've talked a lot about, hey, with the big win, big SEC win, but man, it's easy to kind of lose sight of what you have to do right now. And what does Memphis have to do this week to win, to make sure they show up?
I mean, this is not.
It's not a tough test. Don't get me wrong.
This is not their most severe test, but yeah, Memphis has been better at home than they have on the road. I just think that. I think the fact that it feels like that running attack is something you'll be able to depend on, right? They don't want to run Lewis as much as they have, but it feels like that's something you can depend on, right? The offensive line you can depend on, the running quarterback you can depend on, the running backs you can depend on. The defense, I think, is better. You know, I mean, we've seen this team get lit up over the last few years, and so it feels like the defense is better this year. So I don't know. It's you know, here you just lapse into coach speak. But I don't expect that they will overlook Florida Atlantic or whatever. Are they going to beat South Florida? Like, that's an interesting question. Are they going to beat Navy? That's an interesting question. Are they going to be like? There are games ahead of them that will be. You know, right now they're not the betting favorite to be the representative from the group of five.
Which is crazy,
right? You know what I mean? So we can be all ahead of ourselves, but the truth of the matter is, Las Vegas doesn't think they're going to go to the like the people writing about it are talking about Memphis, but Las Vegas still says South Florida, has shorter odds, and I think they have Tulane at shorter odds.
That's what Steven said on this program. Steven, he's our Ole Miss guy. He said that he thinks Tulane is going to come out.
So I thought Tulane was kind of exposed against, particularly the line of scrimmage against Ole Miss.
Yeah.
That was interesting to see. Tulane coach gets a lot of credit. They're well coached. But those are the games that I think will define the season. If they were to screw up and lose this weekend, it would really be
a bad loss.
Yeah, I mean, it would take a lot of the steam out of this, you know.
Well, everything starts and ends with the quarterback. And what I really liked how this game against Arkansas, it seemed to be a real showcase for Brendan Lewis, especially when you talk about the storyline with him and Taylor Green. They grew up together and the coaching background. What did you really like from Brendan Lewis in that game? And going forward, do you really think that he really elevates this program past than what Seth Hennigan could have did with them?
I don't know. And the reason is, I'll be honest, the first half, I'm like, this is not going to work. Like, he's missing wide open dudes. And I mean, he obviously he's a much better runner than Seth Hennigan. You can do a lot of things with him that you couldn't do with Seth Hennigan, and defenses have to adjust to that. In the end, you have to be able to hit open receivers, and he was not. Like, I'm like, there's a hard ceiling here because he's not accurate. He came back in the second half, and he was dramatically better. And so Ryan, talking about it afterwards, said, listen, this is the biggest game he'd ever played in, the biggest home crowd he'd ever played in. And so he attributed that first half to nerves. In the end, he's going to have to hit key throws during the course of the season if they want to go so to me, there's a floor to him, and I like the floor. You know, he's going to be effective as a runner. I'm interested to see how it will evolve, how the passing attack will evolve. He feels like he's got a go-to receiver in Graham, like and so
love Graham.
There's a guy. He's the opposite of Sutton Smith. He arrived like 3 days ago, but he's already, he's very clearly playing his ass off, and so, but that is to me one of the. It's not that I don't doubt him, but I'll be interested to see how the passing attack evolves. Is it something that you can count on?
I think to the point you're making is you're just not sure how high the ceiling is yet.
I'm not sure how high the ceiling is yet.
And that's going to be a question because while that game was the biggest home crowd and there's going to be other pressure situations coming up down the line.
He's going to have to hit some, and I don't think. I don't think you're going to get the double passes aren't going to be the.
I'm not going to see that anymore.
Ryan didn't say we wouldn't see it again, but that was an interesting moment. Yeah.
Real quick, producer Jared, pull up that forced fumble for us. I want to talk to you, Jeff, about what have you really liked from the defense. I know coming into the season, all the spotlight was on Whitlow because he was one of the guys coming back. Yeah. But then you got guys like Chris Bracey who forces this fumbles. We talked about Lou earlier. What do you really like from these guys on the defensive unit?
First of all, the last few years, it's been guys running wide open in the secondary. And you had the bust early against Arkansas, right? The tight end gets open, and it was like, what the hell is happening here? How did that happen? But there really wasn't a lot other than that, like they were, didn't feel like there were a lot of busts. And then on that Bracey fumble, like Bracey, he didn't even start this game. He started earlier in the season. He was the starter. They rotate their DBs a lot. He's a guy who came over from UAB. But it's interesting because they were, they made the decision. They could have let them score at that point and said, we'll get the ball back and try to score ourselves. They said, no, we're going to trust our defense. And if you look at that,
gutsy call.
it wasn't just luck. I mean, that was he went in there and he punched the damn ball out.
Yeah.
It was not. You wouldn't want to having to win that way.
Yeah.
But there was nothing fluky or whatever about it. That was a great defensive play, and you have to figure, as much as like that defense is a whole bunch of new players, except for Whitlow, and so you have to figure that they will be getting better as the season goes on. Obviously, Troy was limited by their quarterback situation, so it's hard to know what to make of that one. But they forced the turnovers against Arkansas, and they made the massive stand at the end.
I just got to say, Ruben.
All right, you got to say something.
If you're an Arkansas fan, I got to be heartbroken. Back-to-back weeks, losing on a fumble.
Yeah.
The fumble at Ole Miss.
That's why Sam
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you're an Arkansas fan, they have the timeout, and you come out of the timeout on that last drive, and you get an illegal substitution penalty.
How does that happen?
Isn't that moment like the moment you're done with Sam Pittman? Like if you can't come out of that, and like that was brutal, absolutely brutal.
So much went. I mean, I know this isn't about the Hawks, but so much. So many people are upset in Arkansas for the way, not just that game, but the game before. Just those winding minutes. Like, all you got to do, run in the middle, take a knee, call timeout, kick. You got one of the best kicking recruits in the country on your team, and you can't trust him for a 30-yard field goal to win it.
And I know Arkansas fans were upset they thought it should have been a offensive pass interference on the play right before touchdown. Yeah. At that point, you still lead by 11 points over a non-Power 4 team. You should win that game. If you're Arkansas, you should win that game.
All right, last thing on this, then we got to take a break. We don't want to discredit the fact that Memphis' defense held one of the most prolific offenses in the country to 3 points.
3 points in the second half. 3 points in the second half.
And Arkansas had been racking up yards and points. So hats off to Memphis defense. Hats off to you, Jeff, as well.
Good to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Good to be here. Thanks.
Absolutely did a great job with all that knowledge and all that information that Rich or myself do not.
We do got to notice, Ruben, in the background that we do have now the Memphis Tiger flag after the big victory. You know what I'm saying?
It's an important addition.
Actually, we'll get an Ole Miss flag if they beat LSU this coming Saturday.
Well, I don't know where you're getting that from. All right, in case